The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
Hello everyone, it is Mark Kelly here. I hope you're doing really well wherever you are in the world today. And a part of our ServiceNow podcast series, we are jumping into a topic that is very close to my heart. We are talking about the opportunity to manage workflows, but for specifically within the kind of retail sector. And we're going to go through in detail some of the most pressing use cases. And joining us again on the podcast, we have got Matt Farahmand, and he is the co-founder of Inspira Systems, and he's a seasoned ServiceNow architect. For over 10 years, he's redesigned workflows on the Now platform for government, energy, and large customer service teams. And in retail, Matt saw the need early for an all-channel tool that lets store staff report issues to HQ while giving leaders clear, real-time visibility. That design now keeps big box, craft, entertainment, and grocery chains running smoothly. Matt's talent for turning complicated processes into simple, effective systems make him the perfect guest for today's Fire Drills to Flow discussion. Matt, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you, Mark. Of course, I appreciate it. And thank you for the great introduction.
So we would have got to know you from the wonderful work that you did within Thirdera. And now we're going to hear a little bit more about the new journey that you're on. Was it a pretty frightening experience to set up on your own with your co-founder?
Oh, you bet it was, and it still is every day. But I would do this 5 more times if I had the opportunity again.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about the work that you and the company are doing. And for people that don't necessarily know much about a retail solution, tell us a little bit about RSOM.
Absolutely. All right. So let me start our podcast with a couple of examples. Imagine it's noon in a restaurant and the commercial fryers in your kitchen all of a sudden stops working. And the lunch queue starts shifting from hungry people to very angry people. Or imagine it's 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning and the FDA announces a nationwide snack recall. And you as a primary person, the headquarters of a grocery chain, are responsible to push this and clear all the shelves across all of your stores before noon. Moments like this decides whether you protect the pennies to make the retail profitable or watch them burn. So today we're going to talk about the workflow, the engine that turns this chaos and this challenges into a clockwork pattern. ServiceNow Retail Services and Operation Management, short for RSOM, and the way Inspira is going to help retailers is squeeze every ounce of the value from RSOM and their retail investment.
So I love the way you kind of painted that picture, and particularly in the world, I suppose people just want it now, right? And they got no patience whatsoever for downtime. And then if you add in the summer months where everyone seems to be off, those precious kind of moments really matter. So tell us a little bit of detail about how you go from that chaos into an orchestrated engine. Maybe go into a little bit more about some of these scenarios and what that could actually translate into a daily routine.
Right. Before I go to those examples, let me give a bit of more brief about the reality that exists today in the retail. Right. The reality today is that retailers across the board, doesn't matter if they're restaurants, grocery stores, etc., department store, big box store, they need an orchestrated platform. They don't need more applications. They don't need more staff, or they don't need more siloed solutions that don't talk to one another. And let me tell you why. Across every segment of the retail, the store staff juggles hundreds of front of the store tasks on daily basis. This could be a price change. This could be an equipment check, safety audits, and you name it, so on and so on. Unfortunately, to this day, many of these tasks, not all of them, It still lives in text messages, WhatsApps, emails, or in someone's memory. All that friction drains the labor and the energy, swallows downtime, and eats the margin that is already laser thin. So we need to have a better solution. And we're going to talk about those use cases as we go along our journey.
So if we kind of go into some of the kind of most pressing use cases that people will probably be nodding their head on, what would be kind of what type of scenarios would be the most kind of common in retail?
Let me go back to our initial examples that I started and opened up our podcast with. And I think the best way this will settle and visualize for our guests today is going to be by quantifying the value of this. So on average, based on the publicly available statistics, a single line during lunchtime generates about $1,500 an hour. Obviously, this varies based on the restaurant size, the kitchen, the foot traffic, all those. But for our scenario, we're going to stick to the average. You lose a fryer, as I mentioned earlier on, for 30 minutes, and you have already burned $750. This is not to count the guest that walks away, go to the other restaurants, etc. The same scenario today without RSOM will average take 2 to 6 hours to get that fryer back online. With RSOM, you're back up in less than 30 minutes. Now let's continue with our use case and with the path that the fryer quits. When you have a solution like RSOM from ServiceNow with Inspira implementing it, the crew member snaps a photo, the RSOM logs the case, and before the oil even cools down, the ticket has been logged. The system tags it as critical kitchen equipment, grabs the warranty, and dispatches the nearest qualified technicians. Next, at the store manager's tablets rings, and it let them know that with the ATA. And at the same moment, a contingency plan pops up, which could be switching to the secondary cook line, push a longer wait time to the digital banner, and arm the POS with a coupon if the queue stretches and the wait line stays longer. 25 minutes later, after the failure occurs, the technician rolls in, checks in his mobile, swaps a $15 heating element, and checks out. The fryer is back online before half an hour mark. The RSOM logs the exact downtime costs, and the finance team back in the head queue know exactly the dollar cents and how much margin is staying in the store instead of leaking out the back door. I know that sounds very ideal, right? But I'm doing this on purpose. I want to paint a picture to our viewers what RSOM is capable to do and the value that brings to the table and how Inspira can help them to get there.
It does sound perfect, because we've all been in those situations where it's 2, 4, 5, 6, it could be the next day before you get a solution and you're losing the will to continue. So when you think about the practicalities of that, how does that compare with your competitors? What's your USP there?
So let me tell you what we can bring to the table. How do we implement and address RSOM solution? And how we help our customers to go through that journey? We address this with a seamless and omni-channel point of entry, where the associate can quickly jump in and report a problem effortlessly. Because the one thing that is most important in retail is the time. They don't have the extra time to go through the hefty login process. So example could be a snapping a photo of the broken ice machine, or initiating a chat to report an issue with the POS system, or an AI-assisted conversation to report the dead fryer. Doesn't matter what that is, we provide those omni-channel front-end to all associates to quickly report this. Within the seconds, the intelligent routing within our solution categorizes the case, assigns it to and notifies the appropriate team, a technician is dispatched, and the repair request tracking gets on their way, all without stealing any valuable time from the store associates that have to spend on more important things. I want to highlight, it is important to think that we are not talking about an IT help desk ticket and use case here. This is a solution that was built from scratch for retail with the retail data model, with the retail use cases in mind, not just rebuilding an IT solution for retail. At the store level, our task engine empowers headquarters and regional managers to send daily checklists and task works directly to associates queue, ensuring that tasks like planograms or recall pools are executed efficiently within the aisle without taking a valuable time away from them.
So Matt, it sounds perfect, right? So you walk through, you understand the problem you're going to solve, you build it from the ground up. So you've walked through the shoes of people in retail. The day-to-day reality, though, is I've got a solution, or some of these companies have got a solution, and you know the pain of actually introducing a solution. It's never seamless, right? What's going to justify them to go, hey, we're not going to continue with this solution that we've already spent a significant amount of money on, adoption, we know integration, we're now going to go with a new solution. From the CFO's perspective, from upskilling other people, why would they want to go on that journey? And don't get me wrong, it sounds brilliant, but what would they want to do that for?
Right, and that's a great question, and a concern that in many of our retail viewers can have in their mind. As I mentioned, the reality in the retail today is that it is very scattered. There are many solutions that do great in part of the retail workflow and not so great in the other part of the retail workflow. The more you wait and the more you sit on not investing in a cohesive solution that brings all these challenges and manual works and disconnected solutions together, you continue to burn your profit margin. You're going to continue to frustrate your employees. The fact of the matter is, in the retail, one of the biggest problems are staff management and the workforce management. One of the main reasons that challenge exists is because the retail employees at the front store, they're not happy, they're not satisfied. They get frustrated with the time that they have to spend on things that they shouldn't spend time on. And that frustrates them, right? Same thing goes back in the HQ. HQ and the people that support the stores, they spend a lot of times doing manual activities that can be automated and digitalized without taking their valuable time away. So at the end of the day, the investment that you have done, it's great, but you need to think about how you can digitalize your journey for the future before it's too late. And we can, later on, when we go through our podcast conversation, we talk about exactly how we're going to help our customers to go through that journey.
Yeah, I get it. Your frontline people, you want them doing meaningful work, you want them to have energy in it, and then you also want to kind of take away your back office people as well, see it as kind of a golden thread to just automate where you possibly can, and then allow your people to do kind of better work. Is there anything else that you're looking to roll out, or any other kind of customer needs that you're looking to try to solve? Because this seems like to be a very, very specific one that you're solving.
That's a great point you're making out, and we want to make sure that our audience understand that this is not just for instance, restaurant chain, right? It also works for retail. It also works for department stores. So let me give you another example for a restaurant chain. And I will go back again to one of our examples I mentioned earlier on about the FDA and the recalls. So let's continue with that scenario, which is it's we all have witnessed it across the globe. Going to a grocery chain happens, recalls unfortunately happens, right? And then you have to manage it. So with RSOM, the way that workflow will work is that the HQ drops the SKU list into one case and pushes all those necessary SKUs across the chain to all stores. I want to mention in between that industry studies show a well-run store and well-managed store can clear the shelves for such a scenario within 2 hours or less. But that's rare and costly. With RSOM, that becomes a realistic time every time that the recall happens. And every associate receives a guided blueprints on their phone to clear the shelves and the steps that help them to go through that process quickly, all while the regional leaders watch the compliance dashboard turns green. Am I claiming that the entire recall paperwork is finished in 2 hours? Absolutely not. That's not possible. Supplier credits, audit trails, those still takes days to complete, but you have the data to make that quicker as well. But what is most important, the customer-facing risk that can that cause you hefty penalties get neutralized before launch. And that's one of the most important aspects of you having a solution like RSOM in place.
Yeah, it seems like you've really, really defined the problem extremely well. I always think of that if I had 4 hours to chop down a tree, 3.5 hours to be sharpening the axe. And I think you've done a really, really good job of doing that and kind of work through the different pain points of customers about what they need to go on the journey, and while maybe reluctant to go on the journey, some of the upsides of that, particularly from a customer engagement and making sure you're keeping that net promoter score really, really happy for your internal employees as well, to make them do really, really meaningful work. We've been chatting with Matt Farahmand. Matt is the co-founder of Inspira Systems, based on Inspiration Systems, he came from the name, which I think is a really, really wonderful and relevant name in this regard. And he's a seasoned ServiceNow architect. And what we've been chatting about is some of the really, really interesting work that they are doing and the problem that they're looking to try to solve. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Matt.
Of course. Thank you. We appreciate your time, and I hope this was useful for our audience.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.